Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, I have a couple of very enlightening stories, folks, and one of them, or maybe both of them, terrifying. One, a near-death experience for a woman, and the other, a man encounters the Nordics. Either way, let's get into the first story. The title is 45 Minutes Dead, Woman's Chilling Out-of-Body Journey, and the Stranger Waiting for Her. Let's get into the account now. What happens when life slips away for nearly an hour, only to be pulled back by forces unseen? Her near-death experience revealed a mysterious man, a message that she wasn't meant to die, and a shocking discovery afterward that still defies explanation. A couple of years ago, she had to go into the hospital for what they called a simple surgery, but it turned out to be anything but simple. It was a gallbladder surgery. During the operation, she actually died for over 45 minutes. I learned about her experience when she shared her story with me afterward. She told me that during the surgery, she had an out-of-body experience. At first, she didn't realize it was her body she was seeing on the operating table, but then she recognized herself and exclaimed, "Oh my word, that's me." Very interesting so far, folks. Can you imagine basically, not realizing that you've actually basically died and are actually looking at your own body, folks? I imagine, there could be points where you basically recognize yourself right off, but this woman not recognizing herself and then realizing it was her? Yeah, I can imagine that actually happening, folks. And I can imagine it's a very terrifying and deliberating, thing to have happened to anyone. But then again, we have this woman's recollection of it, so we can basically say at least we know what possibly could happen if you're ever in the same situation. Either way, let's continue with the article now. She mentioned that she went to some room and thinks she was in a wheelchair. There was another guy there, also in a wheelchair, and they talked about various things, whatever happens when you're not quite here or there. He told her that she wasn't meant to die yet, and that she had plenty of time left. Eventually, the man just rolled away, and she had to go into a rehabilitation afterward. While in rehab, they received the daily paper, which included the obituaries. She joked about having to read them sometimes to ensure she wasn't listed. Laughs. While reading, she saw a photo of a man and kept saying, I know this guy. It turned out that he was the same man she had spoken to during her near-death experience C. What does that mean, folks? How can she have recognized the man that she met in her near-death experience in the obituaries? It sounds totally insane. There's also a note, folks, that comes with the article, so let's read that and then I can give my final thoughts. I've heard similar stories from others who've had tough surgeries or who were clinically dead at some point. Is this life force truly leaving the body, or is it just a chemical reaction in the brain causing hallucinations? Will it be proven, or can it be? So was all of it just a hallucination this woman was having, folks? But how does that explain the person that the picture she saw in the obituary? How did she recognize this man? Is it just a coincidence? Just part of her, hallucination? And this guy just happened to look like that man? Or is it possible that this man, maybe he himself is near death, and somehow in this near-death state, he was able to meet this woman and told her that it was not her time? Is that what happened here, folks? It sort of reminds me of, stories where a person will see a loved one or a spirit of a loved one right before they die and stuff like that. This sort of sounds like that, but definitely, folks, she did not know that man. So, how could she have met him? It just really makes no sense, but it's still very interesting. Either way, folks, our next article, Arcadia Lake UFO Mystery, Frat Brothers, Nordic Aliens Encounter, and Fisherman's Chilling Corroboration. Let's get into this, out of this world story and hear how this man and this fisherman basically had to agree that the Nordics were the ones that they apparently met. So let's continue. Two separate witness reports extraordinary UFO activity at Oklahoma's Arcadia Lake in August 2013. One, a fraternity brother, the other, a lone fisherman. Their eerily similar accounts of glowing lights, strange craft, and Nordic aliens continue to stir speculation about one of the region's most intriguing unexplained encounters. Let's get into the full account now. In late August 2013, Arcadia Lake on Edmund's eastern edge became the center of an enduring UFO mystery. The case began when a University of Central Oklahoma fraternity member reported seeing an enormous glowing object emerge from beneath the water. As the lights danced across the lake and eventually shot skyward, he claimed he was confronted by three strikingly tall, pale, blonde-haired figures, two female and one male, who communicated telepathically and told him he had an important role to play. Ooh, It's very interesting, folks. A second report filed independently by a fisherman at the exact location and time lent disturbing credibility to the story. The angler described a massive greenish light flashing red and blue beneath the surface, moving rhythmically before launching into the night sky and reappearing over the shoreline campsite. The fishermen later discovered the fraternity brothers' truck and discarded trash bags, but no people, deepening suspicions of a missing time episode. Despite MUFON's attempt to investigate, both witnesses became difficult to contact. Local officials, including Edmond Police and the Arcadia Lake Project Office, reported no knowledge of unusual activity. UCO confirmed no fraternities had officially registered an event at the lake that weekend, adding another layer of ambiguity. The case gained further intrigue when Linda Moulton Howe of Earth Files published accounts of Nordic aliens described by abductee Tyler Jones of Alabama. His description of tall, blue-eyed, pale-skinned beings with long blonde hair closely mirrored what the Arcadia Lake fraternity brother reported. This connection has fueled speculation that both incidents may represent part of a larger pattern involving the so-called tall blondes. Very interesting, folks. But let's continue. Whether a hoax, a case of mass misperception, or genuine contact, the Arcadia Lake incident remains one of Oklahoma's most curious UFO encounters. To this day, questions linger. Did two unrelated witnesses truly see the same otherworldly event, and was a young man briefly taken or chosen by beings from beyond? Was he, folks? We can only, speculate on the actual truth of that matter, but we'll wait off on that until after we read the note that came with the article too. The Arcadia Lake UFO case of August 2013 involves two separate eyewitnesses, a fraternity member and a fisherman, who independently reported seeing a glowing underwater light, a craft ascending into the sky, and possible contact with three tall Nordic-type aliens. Despite MUFON's involvement, the case remains unresolved with no official records of fraternity events that weekend and no corroborating reports from local authorities. Its details closely align with broader patterns of Nordic alien encounters reported in the U.S. Encounters with Nordic or tall blonde aliens have been part of UFO lore since the mid-20th century. Unlike the more commonly reported grays, Nordics are often described as benevolent, telepathic, and resembling idealized humans of Scandinavian descent. They became a staple of early contactee stories in the 1950s and 1960s, with figures like George Amsky claiming to have met them. In modern accounts, they frequently appear in abduction narratives alongside craft sightings and cattle mutilations, reinforcing a thematic link between human-like extraterrestrials and long-running UFO phenomena. The Arcadia Lake incident fits within this lineage, blending elements of light anomalies, missing time, and psychic communication. So, this is something recorded in other UFO accounts going back decades, folks. And the fact that some people have speculated that the tall, blonde aliens here might be, related to cryptoterrestrials. Because if you look at classic fairy myths, folks, then the tall, blonde, Nordic-like aliens here resemble literal Tolkien-like elves. The fact they don't seem to have pointy ears is one thing, folks, but the fact they so closely resemble them, that's quite another. It means maybe that these beings inspired these ancient myths, perhaps. And even if you look at basically gray aliens, folks, they could be what inspired the myths of goblins. So, is it possible that these encounters with basically these alien beings, they've been recorded in myth and legend, folks? Because that's the feeling I get whenever I think about the Nordic aliens. And when I look at different accounts of alien beings, if I look at ancient myths and legends, folks, I can sometimes see a parallel. Like, say, basically, the tall, maybe muscular and hairy Bigfoot-type aliens that have been reported on various UFO craft that resemble basically, literal North American Bigfoot, folks. Perhaps they gave rise to the legend of trolls. Maybe the fact that the Bigfoot did give rise to those legends is just that period. Maybe the troll is actually just Bigfoot. So, I'm wondering, folks, is there such a relationship? We can only, as I've said before, folks, speculate on that fact. Either way, I would love to hear more about these particular aliens in the future. But now we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics That Are Bad For You. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.